Inaudible.
Seconds, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here, Mr. Minister. I don't believe using the Canada Foundation Sustainability Act as a shield is appropriate. I spoke on that legislation, and I knew that the vulnerabilities is really about creating another element outside the government so workers can't actually get the same treatment and supports as a federal public servant. So my first question to you would be, Mr. Minister, will you guarantee all the current employees an equivalent position in the federal civil service if they come forward, if they feel that they are not being treated right now? Will you guarantee that them and their families will actually be there in terms of employment and confidentiality will be able to be expressed because they're at risk? So will you guarantee those individuals
I
their
hear your
jobs?
question. I cannot change the act, that's for sure. But what I can do and what we have provided.
Well, you can change the act, actually. We can actually put an all-party motion forward and actually do that, which will craft that and get it ready. So we can actually change the act to protect these people.
Listen, I was talking about the current version, but
yeah,
obviously,
I am too. We can change it.
I agree with you. Parliament could make an amendment and change that. But what we did in the meantime, because I think we're talking about an actual issue with real people having real allegations. What we did, which I think is the best thing that we can do under the circumstances today, is to make sure that we have a process where we demanded and obtained from SDTC that they will relieve people from their confidentiality obligation, whatever they might be.
Yeah, but I'm looking for so I've talked to some of the former employees, and I can hear it in their voices. Very much disconcerting in terms of what's taking place there, and I can hear it in their voices about their concern about their current people that are certainly still being there employed. Mm-hmm. So what can you offer those people, aside from a private law firm outside, what can you take away from right now is we at least go away from this meeting and look at guaranteeing their employment within the public service as an equivalent position so we can actually get to the bottom of this. And the legislation can be changed, but in the meantime, we have to do something for them and their families. We're talking about a lot of money here.
Listen, I could. That's why I did. Yeah. Listen, you're talking to the person who acted. There was people who were talking. I did that. I took action from the moment there was allegation. And as you know, there's a history of that. I'm the first one to act on something.
No, and I appreciate
when I got
that, but these people need their jobs.
No, I appreciate, but what I'm saying, Mr. Masse, is that I acted immediately to have a report, so we have a factual basis, the Raymond Chabot report, which is, by the way, for colleagues,
that's great, but that's way out there for them. That's not every day. People have to go into this agency as this is being ground out in the public. They have to get up and go into this environment and actually have to try to produce for us, and on top of that, deal with their own repercussions of this going. So I'm looking for guarantees on how do we protect those people, specific guarantees.
And I appreciate it, and that's what we did. We said because today, my understanding as a lawyer of the situation as you see it, is that some of them have been refrained from being able to bring forward because their allegation because of concern with respect to non-disclosure agreement, or even settlement agreements, what we demanded and obtained from SDTC, because, we're not managing human resources here. You're talking to the minister. This is done by the board and the management of SDTC.
Yeah, all politically appointed through a process.
It's not the minister.
This is not an entitlement to be the director there and board member. It's not an entitlement. It's a privilege.
I agree with
you. And what I can control at this point here, and I think we can all control here, is protecting these workers at this point in time. And
that's what, if I may, Mr. Chair, that's the best way to do that today. Consulting with legal advice that we received, the best way we can do today. I agree with you. I feel for these people every day. I want to get to the bottom of this more than anyone else here, because actually all of what you see is because I took action. So what we receive as legal advice is to say the best way is to have a third-party law firm where they don't have to tell that to their management. They'll be relieved from any covenants or the restrictions that they have. They can tell their full story. The law firm will then produce a report to the minister, and then on the basis of any additional evidence that I receive, we will take further action, including, like you said, with respect to the board and the management of the company. But first, we need to have a fact-finding mission that needs to be done in accordance with due process.
I do appreciate those efforts, but these people have to live through this. and they have to continue to live through the process that you just described by no fault of their own, going into an environment that's not functional in many respects, even if you want to debate it. So what we could do, though, is at least guarantee some type of equivalency in the public service. We've done this before. I worked with Minister Stockwell Day at the time when we went to arm the border guards, and one of the things that we did was we actually made sure that people didn't get laid off or who lost their job. They would be their equivalency move. Now we've created an establishment here through the legislation, so it is so-called arm's length, which I've seen many times over here. They're either within choking distance of a minister or not, or they're arm's length at different times. It depends upon the situation. But why can't we do something here to guarantee the employment of those individuals that are currently there, so they can either transfer out or they can actually get some protection that's more than just what you're offering? And I do appreciate you offered that, but again, they have to live through that for the next 6 months to a year.
Listen, I feel for it. That's why we took action immediately when we say, what is the best way to get to the bottom of it? Because let's be clear, so far, as you know, Mr. Masse, what we have is allegation. I need evidence. And that's what we said. The best way for them to do that is not to the management, and I appreciate they may not want. We said we'll hire a third-party law firm. That you won't have to deal with management on that. You can report to them. They'll report to me. And then, to your point, I am willing with this, within the authority of the Act and the contribution agreement, to take any action required. If it requires to change the board, to change, we will do anything that's required. But I need to work on the basis of evidence, and that's what we said to people: bring the evidence forward, so that we can have that evidence to take action.